We thank you everyone for joining. This is LISC New York's information session for the qualification for proposals for co-developers for the redevelopment of property at 1175 Boston Road in the Bronx. We're delighted, like I said before, to see so many faces today, and I will take the opportunity to turn it over to our Director of Housing here at LISC New York, Ms. Monica Dean.
Thank you, Rhonda Lee. Good afternoon, everyone. We hope everyone is doing well and your new year has been off to a great start, as Rhonda Lee said. I am the Director of Housing here at LISC New York, and with the team here at LISC and our partners and consultants, we have been managing and responsible for really driving our housing platform for LISC New York for all of our housing programs, policies, and goals across New York State. And so I know we want to just jump right in, but I do want to begin by just briefly sharing a little bit about LISC New York, the Local Initiative Support Corporation. And so we are one of the country's largest community development corporations, where we have a history and track record of helping to forge vibrant and resilient communities across the country. We work with residents and our community partners, and together we help close systemic gaps in health, wealth, and opportunity to help advance racial equity so that people in places can thrive across the country. And so we do this in a variety of different ways. We act as conduits for grants and loans and equity. We also provide technical assistance and capacity building programs, like New York Land Opportunity, which you'll hear a little bit more about today, to organizations that carry out this work in the communities where people live, work, and play. And so just briefly, the goals of LISC New York's New York Land Opportunity Program. This program was specifically designed to support faith-based organizations and mission-driven organizations who own land, and they want to develop on the land that they own with an affordable housing component to their projects, but they just lack the capacity to do so on their own. And so that's where NILOP comes in to really support these organizations to help bring these projects to fruition by providing financial and the technical resources. And so, as we do for the majority of all of our housing programs, NILOP in particular, we will release and issue a request for expression of interest for those organizations who may be interested in applying for the program. And so we will be releasing an RFEI for the 2025 cohort in a week or so. So definitely stay tuned if you or any other organizations that you know of may be interested in submitting an application in response to the RFEI that we're putting out probably towards the end of next week or early next week. Definitely encourage them to apply. And so the request for qualifications that you will learn more about during this webinar is on behalf of New Covenant Miracle Faith Arena, which was one of our cohort participants in the second NILOP. And so we are excited to be working with New Covenant Miracle and Faith Arena. We've been working with them for some years now, and happy to see the development and the progress that we've made this far. And again, you'll hear a little bit more about the project, so definitely get your questions, put them in the chat as we share information about this request for qualifications that was recently issued. And so now you will hear from the Archbishop Dr. Joseph Alexander from New Covenant Faith and Miracle Arena International, where he's a major leader in charismatic churches and currently serves as the Archbishop in over 150 churches in the United States and abroad. He has a great deal of financial expertise over the past 37 years, where he's been in positions to negotiate with banks and mortgage companies and packaged more than $250 million in real estate purchases and building development, church, schools, apartment buildings, and more. And in 2012, the Archbishop of New Covenant Faith Miracle Arena and the Common Ground joined forces to develop a supportive residence for veterans built on the vacant land previously that was owned by the church. So without further ado, I'll introduce Archbishop Alexander, who will talk a little bit more about New Covenant Faith and Miracle, and also just share with you a little bit about the project and what they are hoping to find in the co-developer that will work very closely with them on this project. Archbishop Alexander, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dean. Appreciate your time and your commitment to helping us accomplish what we believe is very essential in our borough, in our community, particularly as you mentioned. We're interested to do something in our community, deal with the issue of housing shortage and the level of homelessness that still prevail or are hard to secure a place of residence. We've been on this for the last going 20 years. By the grace of God, little success here and there. We built 154 square foot next to our church building in collaboration with Common Ground, now called Breaking Ground. And so I am hoping and appreciating what your group has helped us to so far prepare, thinking about how to increase the housing stock in our community. And we want hope that we can find co-developers that will work with us, allowed us to accomplish this task in the best possible time. And of course, I'm here today to be able to share our outlook, very positive, that this is the need of our community, as we would say also the will of God that we do this. So we're committed to it, and I hope to answer any question anyone might have, trying to see how we can work together. So thank you so much for your time and the effort of your department, of course. Our good friend, Jim Miller, who has been working with us, helping us to understand some things. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Archbishop Alexander. And so now I will will lead us through the overview of the RFQ and the scope of services is Mr. Jimmy Miller, a longtime partner and the development consultant working with us on NILOP from Sincere Consultant. And so, as the Archbishop said, Jimmy Miller is also a good friend of ours, and we enjoy working with him and his team. And so, Sincere Consulting has been providing strategic planning, again, and development consulting for NILOP. And Jimmy has been in this space and held numerous positions, some of which included, but are not limited to, the Deputy Assistant Secretary to the Governor of New York, the Deputy General Manager for NYCHA, and the President of the New York Housing Trust Fund Corporation. And so he has many years of experience and has led development of more than over 11,000 units of housing and over about $2.5 billion. So Jimmy, I am going to turn it over to you to just walk us through the request for qualifications and the scope of services as to what we're looking for this RFQ.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. I've noticed you put the emphasis on many years, so I'll let that slide. So gonna make this brief and succinct. You can do the next slide for me, please. As Ms. Dean said, we have been working with the Archbishop and our development team, which consists of Jason LeBate and his team at Goldstein and Hall. Our architect for this project was WXY. So we worked with the Archbishop to develop a concept plan and develop a vision statement. And the goal is to take that vision statement and concept plan and to bring it to reality. So this RFP on the auspices of LISC New York includes a concept plan. And that concept plan, there were initially two concept plans. One would have been an heirs concept, and this one is option B, which provides for 92 units, some of which would be targeted for seniors, but less than 20% would be targeted for seniors. The project also includes the demolition of the existing site at 1175 Boston Road. And we'll talk about the importance of that demolition and relocation in a few seconds. The project also includes a sanctuary. It includes 92 units. It includes a courtyard. It'll be approximately 65,000 square feet of residential space on floors 2 through 8. And the first floor again will be community space and church sanctuary. The project also includes a credit union and that the church runs, as well as a daycare center that the church runs. So one can see that this is a full service, multi service mixed use development. And the bedroom mix of the 92 units is found in the RFQ. So I won't take time to go through that, but it is in the RFQ. The scope of services, again, we're looking for a full service development team. And we want that team to work with Archbishop and his team to take the site plan that's included in the RFQ and to refine that site plan and to direct the project, which includes the project design, development, and the financing. So again, looking for a full development team, including architect, engineers. The entire team needs to bring this project to fruition. The RFQ also includes minimum requirements for the co-developer. Those minimum requirements are listed in the RFQ. I'll just briefly go through them. You need to have at least 5 years of experience developing affordable housing of a comparable size and scope to the project listed in this RFQ. And you need to have knowledge of the low-income housing tax credits, as well as knowledge of programs run by both HCR and HPD. You must have completed at least 2 projects of a comparable size and scope to the project outlined in this RFP over the last 10 years. So again, looking for you to have completed 2 projects of the same size and scope as the project we're talking about, which is a 92 unit mixed use development in an urban area. And you must have had experience accessing private equity, debt financing, government grants, and loans. So those are the minimum criteria that we will be looking for when we assess your response. The co-developer's role is also laid out in the RFQ, overseeing, as we said, the entire redevelopment effort, hiring and managing consultants and third parties in conjunction with the church, developing applications for funding, maintaining communication between the church and the lenders and investors, maintaining a detailed development schedule. Also critically important is maintaining and fostering relationship with the surrounding community, in particular local politicians as well as the community planning board, and being responsive to all those parties as well. The co-developer will also be responsible for ensuring compliance with all of the local zoning laws and regulations as well. Something also very important to LISC New York is that we have a big emphasis here on working with MBE, WB, and BIPOC contractors, subcontractors. So we'll be looking for development teams that place an emphasis on helping us achieve those goals. We mentioned earlier that this project does involve the demolition of an existing facility. That facility does contain a working daycare center. It does include a credit union. It does include offices, and it also includes a sanctuary. So obviously, during the construction period, the co-developer will be responsible for working with the church to find alternative relocation opportunities for those services during the construction period. So that is essential. That is difficult, but that is necessary to bring the project to fruition. And when we began developing the feasibility plans and the budget for the development, we'll need to incorporate ways and means of how to finance that temporary relocation of those services. And we do intend for those services to operate during the construction period. So again, that is vital to the success of the church's programs. Next slide, please. We covered this one. You can go to the next one. And the next one. Before I get to the evaluation criteria, I'm gonna go through the submission requirements. The submission requirements are also laid out in the RFQ. We'll be looking for you to provide a non-collusive affidavit saying that you did not collude with anyone else in putting together your response. We'll be looking for you to delineate your experience over the last 10 years. There is a spreadsheet in the packet that you need to complete listing your relevant projects again that are comparable in size and scope to this RFQ. We'll need resumes of your key team members. We'll need your last 2 years audited financial statement so we can determine your financial capacity and your liquidity. And if you've had any litigation that would impede your ability to bring this project to fruition, you need to list those as well. So those are the submission requirements. And again, they're laid out in part 6 of the RFQ. And then evaluation criteria, looking again for your experience, your key staff members. Key business terms include the portion of the developer's fees and cash flow that you're willing to share with the church, and your methodology for bringing this project to fruition. You need to delineate that in your response. And again, your financial capacity and references will also be part of the evaluation criteria. And last but not least, your commitment, your past commitments and your future commitments to MBE, WB, BIPOC, employment and contracting opportunities. So those are the evaluation criteria. Next slide, please. This is a timetable. There's also outlined in the RFQ. Today is the 28th. The deadline for questions is Monday, February the 3rd. We'll also be taking questions today, but to the extent your questions are not put forward today, you will have an opportunity to also submit questions to us by February the 3rd. Those questions will be answered by us via an addendum by Monday, February the 10th. And they'll be posted on the LISC New York NILOT website. And then the responses are due no later than Tuesday, February 18th, 2025. And I need to again highlight the fact that they are due by 3 p.m. local time. and late responses will not be accepted. So that concludes my presentation on the overview of the RFQ. I'll turn it back over to Ms. Dean.
Thank you, Jimmy, for that. I do want to acknowledge, I do see Gregory Kimball here from our partner law firm of Goldstein Hall. And our architectural firm it's ESKW. I'm not sure if anyone from Andrew Knox's office is here, but we've been working with ESKW for the past couple of years as well. We are ready for questions. If you raise your hand, we can come to you and you can ask your question live, or you can put your question in the Q&A. I see it says, what are the MWBE participation goals? I think, Jimmy, didn't you address that already?
Okay, we don't have any quantitative goals. What we're looking for is participation. We'll be rating participation in the development team, preferably development team itself. So we'll be looking for minority, women, BIPOC participation in the development team. So the greater that participation is by those classes, obviously the higher your score will be. So that's the first level. In your response, you'll say that your architect is, your engineering is, your team is composed of partners. So to say that we would obviously prefer that you have that a partner in this enterprise be an MBE, a WB, or a BIPOC. So that's what we're looking for, the highest level of participation possible in your development. Obviously, architects, engineers, and sub-consultants are also welcome. But again, the partnerships would be the highest form of participation. So that's what we're looking for. Looking to grow wealth in these communities. And that can only be done in a great part through ownership.
We do have a few more questions in the Q&A box. So one is, will the church be contributing any of their own capital towards their project?
Let me give a stab at that, Archbishop.
Yeah.
Since the Archbishop and I have spent a lot of time together, a lot of time. So the way this typically works is that the RFQ calls for 100% of the pre-development costs to be carried by the co-developer. So we need to put that out there because oftentimes that's an impediment. And then to the extent that this is a church, and then we have Greg on as well, he's an attorney. To the extent this is a church, then the church must be paid fair market value for its property. And then that property is appraised according to the terms that are laid out by the Attorney General. And then typically these non-residential costs, for example, that we talked about, that may not be eligible for public funding or for tax credits, typically a portion of those proceeds from the sale of the property by the church to the partnership, that typically is the church's contribution back into the deal. For example, if you had if these other costs were $7 million that we talked about for the sanctuary and these other costs that are non-eligible basis, and then if the church were to get $9 million for its property, it would need to put $7 million of those proceeds back into the deal. So that's typically the way the deal works in terms of the church's capital. So yes, in a nutshell, yes, the church will have a skin in the game. It is typically it's the share of its proceeds from the sale of the property to the partnership.
Right.
Okay, we have another question about joint ventures. So can a small developer partner with a more experienced developer on this RFQ?
Please do. We talk about growing wealth in these communities. And one way to do that is we have projects already, and in many of those cases, we have a small developer that's partnering with larger ones. So we do encourage that. Again, so yes, we do encourage partnerships, consortiums.
There's another question. Can 4% LIHTC experience be accepted, or is 9% LIHTC experience a requirement for the developer?
We will accept either. We don't know if this will be a 9 or 4. That's to be determined by the feasibility analysis that will be undertaken by the co-developer in the church. So either will suffice.
Those are all the questions I see in the chat. No, there's one more. Does subcontract opportunities exist for MBE certified contractors that are not big enough to take on the total project alone?
Again, going back to LISC New York's those objective, the answer to that would be yes. We get again, we have different levels of participation. We have partnerships, we have team members, and obviously when the contract goes out for bid for either a contractor or a construction manager, we'll be looking for participation in that as well by subcontractors as well, by minority women and BIPOC subcontractors as well.
And I do see a comment from Michael Keller. Would be nice to see some considerations for SDVOB recognition participation. So that's the service disabled, a veteran-owned small business, I believe. And so again, we encourage all businesses to apply. While we cannot do any set-asides for any particular group. Even, we can't do any set-asides for MWBE or MBE. We definitely encourage all contractors and entrepreneurs and businesses of the like to submit, and a proposal in response to the RFQ. I hope that answered your question.
There's another question from a church, Monica. Maybe you can take this one. So as a church, how do we obtain or prepare RFP for development in Buffalo, New York? We have vacant land or land vacant parcels, and we need church, new sanctuary, and church building renovations. And can the church receive revenue?
So Ms. Patricia Rondelli, put our email in the chat, especially because that question is not specifically related to this RFQ. We could take that offline and provide some resources and information. I would also add, it seems like you'd be a great applicant for consideration into NILOC, because that is what we do for organizations who, have questions and need support regarding, RFPs and what you just asked. So I would just say that we'll put our email in the chat. Okay, here's a question here. What is the competency level of trustees and leadership in the church to understand the complexity of such a project when developers present? Are you aware of how the AG process works internally? So this is a question for Archbishop Alexander.
Yeah, we believe that our board is well constituted and of course experienced with what we think we will do. We have in our team engineers and financial people. Depending upon the level of complexity, we certainly believe that we will be able to understand, and where we do not, we have consultants that will help us. If that is a question, of course, from the AG standpoint, we have done several projects that involve AG's approval, the processes. And so we're fully vested in that, and we're hope that experience will help us in this particular one.
Okay, is the contract open shop or a labor-related project? Jimmy, you wanted to answer that?
I'm not sure I can answer at the moment. Greg, I'm not sure I can answer at the moment. I think we'll have to do some consultation with our attorney and maybe the HPD, and that's something we'll have to respond to in our responses that we're talking about that we'll have out by February the 10th. So that I can't answer at the moment, Ms. Dean.
I don't have any answer either. Jason LeBay, a partner at the firm, is also here. Jason, I'm not sure if you have any insight into that as of this point. Oh, he was here. I guess he must have dropped
But I
off.
said we
Well,
will.
he's here. I just
Oh, here he is.
yeah.
Jason.
Hey, right. So whether it is prevailing wage or open shop will depend on what funding program the developer is proposing and ultimately pursues. The request for proposal does not dictate the labor requirements on the site, but the funding program through which the project is developed, which would be selected in large part by the developer, subject to the approval of the church, that's going to dictate the labor requirements.
Thanks, Jason. Do we answer all the questions? You can also raise your hand and you can ask your question live if you like. Okay, there's one more question I see here. I am a certified WBE and provide a variety of supplemental services. Is there a list that is being developed where we can submit our information and capabilities? Christian, when you say a list being developed, okay, I guess you're referring to the supplemental services that you provide. So I see my team typing, probably putting our contact information there so we can follow up with you, Christian. Okay, I see another question here. I know developers and engineers and architects, and I'm MWB certified and I have a real estate license. Can I be qualified for a co-developer if the developers and architects join me?
He's asking questions about, we have in the RFQ, we listed the minimum qualification. So again, we talked about, we welcome and then invite partnerships and consortiums. So I guess the issue would be that the minimum requirements are laid out in the RFQ. 2 projects of a comparable size in the last 10 years. Values are relevant experience, the financial capacity, which basically means your balance sheet to carry this project forward and not having any legal issue that would impede you from being a part of the team. So you would need to put together a team, not the architect per se, but the developer, the co-developer. So that co-developer would need to meet these qualifications, and they would need to have the 2 projects and the 5 years experience and the disclosure in the financial statements. So we're looking for that. The key members are the developers, and that could be a developer or it could be a partnership or consortium of firms. So we wouldn't necessarily be looking to the architect for their to meet those basic minimum criteria. you need an architect as part of your team because we have required that you put together a full, what's the word? A development team that includes all the key members. But in terms of the rating and ranking, the co-developer needs to meet those criteria.
Thank you, Jimmy. I see one hand raised. Ms. Althea Belton will come to you. Go ahead, Ms. Althea.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for letting me speak. I don't know if it was your last event, but I don't know if you gave another event after. But I believe I met Jimmy, Mr.
Yeah, we met
Jimmy
you at the
Miller.
Trinity Church. Yes, I remember
Right, the
you.
Trinity
Yeah,
Year.
yeah.
Okay,
And
okay,
you met
great,
with
great.
Rhonda Lee and Christo, my team. Yes.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so I met Jimmy as well. Afterwards we
Mm-hmm.
were networking and his assistant was supposed to contact me and she didn't have a card or anything, so I never got in touch with him. But I was mentioning to him about, the 55 acres of land and he wanted her to contact me regarding that. I had an issue with it, but now it's all cleared. Everything is owned, free and clear. Just wanted to let him know that. However, the class that he went to, I know I wanted to join as well. They were talking about how phenomenal it was, and I had been for almost a year now trying to get involved with that, Monica. Um, so that was my question, Mr. Miller. If I have a team of people that's qualified, I mean, could I be included in that team that I have the developer and he has his whole team?
The answer to that is yes. If especially we talked about it before, you have this land, so obviously you would be an essential member of such team because you have the land. So yes, again, the key to putting together a team is that if you don't have the record qualification, you have the land, but you might not have the capital. You have the capital, you don't have the land. You have one or the other, but you don't have the 5 years experience and complete 2 projects. So
Right.
the key is to put together that team where you are a key member of the partnership. And the key is to make sure that when you put together that team, that you make sure you secure enough of that partnership interest that represents your contribution to the partnership. I'm contributing land, it's worth X. The developer contributing upfront payment, it's worth X. The key is having enough ability to negotiate your way into this deal. They can be complex. So yeah, but yeah, that goes out to anyone here today is that, if you have the land, that is the core component of this. And then you can be a church or you can be a nonprofit. And then the key is find yourself a developer and make sure they have the assets that you need to bring this project to fruition.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know a couple of them. So
Okay.
yeah. So, but I definitely would like to get in touch with you if that's
Okay.
at all possible.
267-246-0643.
I'm sorry, 267. Say that again real quick.
267-246-0643.
0643.
So
Got it.
if you have questions though, you need to put them to if you have questions related to this RFQ, for the sake of transparency and equity, you need to put those questions through to the due to the here to LISC New York, so that those questions, so the answer to those questions can be shared with everyone. So
Yeah, I did. It's in there. I
great.
put the questions that I asked you. It's in there. I just wanted to
Great.
tell you.
Yeah, but I'm glad you made the progress, and
Thank you.
you're looking
Me
forward
too.
to your submission.
Okay.
Okay, well, thanks, everyone. I don't see any other questions. Let me just check. Are there any more hands raised? I'm trying to, let's see.
Ms.
Oh,
Dean,
Sylvia Cothia. Let me, Yes, go ahead, Jimmy, before
I
I go to
want,
Sylvia.
you go ahead, but I want to make sure that before you finish, I want to go back to the slide with the timetables. I want to make sure that we get those timetables, the timeline. But go ahead, Mr. Parlor, the
Okay,
timeline.
Well,
Yeah, go
go
ahead.
ahead, Sylvia.
yes, hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so very much. The same, I would love to have your contact number. I'm sorry, I'm out of the office, so sorry about the background. I'm at a Pret a Manger store, so. Yes, I would like to have your contact number again, because I'm in the same position somewhat, but I do have a nonprofit, and I'm looking to partner with a developer. But she's from out of state of Jersey, but she could operate here in the city. Is that okay?
Yeah, any interested developer who would like to submit a proposal in response to this should apply. We receive proposals from people across the country. So
Oh, okay, okay. She's wonderful, wonderful. I had a meeting with her earlier this week, and she's willing to joint venture with me, my nonprofit, an award-winning organization. I was actually at that event too last year, but obviously with the holidays and, just catching up now. So I'd still like to connect. My organization is nonprofit is Positive Women United, and our initiative, it's still women in housing, because we're still getting a lot of intake of migrant women in shelters with children and single moms with children in shelters and beyond, not just this, but that's a highlight of what we're going through right now, but that would be the aim and mission for us. So I just want to know if that's still possibility to submit the RFP and beyond, or any other programs that you may have to fit all, a model for women and moms, single moms.
absolutely.
Okay,
I just put
wonderful.
the email in the chat. It's nylop@lisc.org.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. And Happy New Year, by the way, it's never too late, so say that, so.
Yes, Happy New Year to you all.
Yeah, it's definitely,
I-
it's still, still in the new year. Oh, okay, great, thank you. Okay, I got it, thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have any other questions? I don't see any other hands raised.
I raised my hand. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Okay, real quick, I know I want to ask you, Monica. I have been waiting for the program to start. When is that supposed to start?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier during the call that we're going to release the RFEI in the next week and a half, probably maybe toward the end of next week for the next 2025 cohort. So it
Okay.
didn't start and hasn't been issued yet, but it's coming.
Okay. Okay, I don't want to miss it this time. Seem like always did. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So sorry to interrupt, is that the real estate developer program?
This is the NILOP program, this program, the New York Land Opportunity Program.
Oh, New York Land Opportunity. Okay, but you do have a real estate developer program, is that coming out this year as well, or
That is correct, yes, in the spring.
in the spring? Okay, awesome, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, I don't see any additional questions. I want to thank everyone once again for joining us this afternoon. A copy of this webinar will be posted up on the LISC New York's website in the next day or so. On the screen again, you will see the timeline. This timeline is also included in the RFQ package and on our website, as we briefly went over earlier. You can submit questions in writing to us by Monday, February 3rd. That's next Monday. We will respond to the questions in writing and post them as an addendum up on our website. And the proposals are due in response to this RFQ on Tuesday, February the 18th at 3 p.m. At 3:01 p.m., you will not be able to submit an application. The link will be disabled. But if you have any questions, again, during the interim, please submit questions to us via email at nylop@lisc.org. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. And we will end this webinar at 2:52 p.m. Thanks again and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Blessing.